You are listening to Inside the Hive, part of the Hornets On Side Network, one podcast feed with multiple shows, making sure we cover the Charlotte Hornets from every single angle. If you like what you hear, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. Hornets On Side podcast is affiliated with the Fans First Sports podcast group. On today's episode, we'll be hitting some preseason news items, but mainly we're going to be talking stock up, stock down on a packed Hornets preseason. Been 3 games so far. The Hornets are 2-1. The regular season feels like it is just around the corner. And to break everything down with me here is Sam Dracula, as he is every single Tuesday. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Like you mentioned, the Hornets are handling their business this preseason, which I know it's preseason, but it's always nice to see some star performances and some wins.
I mean, and look, like I have this whole thing later, which we're going to get into about like, don't buy into the preseason too much. And this is why we're a good mismatch here, because you just told me you put a bet on Tidjane Salaun for Rookie of the Year, which shows me you are buying fully into the preseason hype.
Well, $5 fully. I want to be like, I put the same amount of money on a Wemby bet about Wemby getting a quadruple double. $5 on that too. You never know. You never know.
I think the Wemby bets are better than the Salaun bet. I think that could happen. I think that could happen.
You never know, man. You never know.
What were the odds on the Wemby bet and on the Salaun bet? Do you recall from off the top of your head?
So I messed up. So after game 2. By the way, this is not gambling advice. Do not follow Sam Dracula's opinions, and I'm not even going to mention the app because they're not sponsored us. But on a particular gambling app, Tidjane Salaun was plus 7,500 after game 2, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then after game 3, which is when I made this hopefully money making wager, I think it's plus 5,000.
It's down value.
Yeah, the people are waking up. They're taking on
the Grant Williams quotes have shifted the market.
All right, they're taking on the Tidjane show. The Victor Wembanyama to record 1 quadruple double in any 24-25 regular season game plus 1,200. Why not?
I don't hate it. That's a fun one to cheer for. Who doesn't want to cheer for quadruple double?
It could be Chris Paul in the house. You never know.
Absolutely. Preseason time. We are 3 games in. The last time we spoke, the Hornets had just played their first preseason game. We literally pressed record as the buzzer sounded. It was all very instant. Had 2 more games since then. One, we're seeing a couple players. Josh Green, LaMelo Ball sat out the last game. I guess let's get on some news items first. Mark Williams is out of his boot and is kind of being ongoingly looked at. I've not got the exact verbiage that the Hornets use, but they basically didn't say that he's back. But the tone of the statement suggested that they are happy with the progress he's made. Mark Williams had a foot sprain, which is going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. This was an interesting one because this was the first real test of the new Hornets training staff, ownership, communication around injuries, right? We're going to reevaluate in 2 weeks. What happens in 2 weeks? Well, 2 weeks to the day, the Hornets posted an update, which is like, this is all Hornets fans wanted. They're not expecting like people to magically stay healthy. They just want to be kept informed. And look, some might say the update they provided was woolly. Basically, he'll be kind of continually evaluated up to the start of the regular season. What does that mean? We don't know, but it gives something. It stops the conspiracy theories. It stops well, is he fit? Is he not? Why haven't we got an update? It's been 2 weeks. And they've passed their first test with a pass grade right now.
Yeah, and if they don't know it, they don't know. That's fine. Tell us you don't know and that you're going to work on it and try to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that stuff. It's open, it's honest, and it's how you build trust with a fan base that's had to suffer through a lot lately. So it's a great start.
Yeah. I'm beginning to think, I wonder if we were maybe seeing that last preseason game just to try and get him some wind. But like, for me, take as long as he needs, get him back ready for the start of the season. Like, if he didn't play in preseason at all, would you start him in game 1 if he was ready?
No. I would start Nick and then roll Mark into the mix.
I think I agree. I agree with you. Like get him gets conditioning, etc. Like, he could even come off the bench if he's fully healthy. Let him come off the bench behind Nick, maybe for a week or 2 as he gets his wind. And is he more comfortable? And his play will prove on the court. Is he ready to start ahead of Nick? Like, I imagine it'll only be a point of conditioning, but that will take some time.
Yeah, the last preseason game is the 17th, and then the season starts the 23rd. So I'd hope Mark is ready to go by the 23rd, at least in some capacity. And then, and there's 2 road games too. So that may be something just be mindful of. Maybe you wait to roll him out on the 26th, first home game. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Other news, Grant Williams has returned from his hamstring injury. Kind of a strange injury, this one, wasn't it? It was like he did all of training camp, but he had a hamstring from before training camp, which kept him out of the first preseason game. But he is back now. Look, he didn't put up much in the box score, but good to see him. He is definitely going to be available opening night. Now, the Tidjane Salaun fans, and maybe your bet, might not love this news because he's probably going to be in a battle for Salaun for minutes, which, by the way, we're going to get onto the quotes from Grant Williams later. It felt like Grant Williams is out there praising Tidjane Salaun when he's literally drafted at his same position as a direct threat to his role as an NBA player. Just again shows he is not an egomaniac. He is here, has the franchise, the team's best outcomes at heart, and he is not all in it for himself. That is something that you don't often see guys do when someone is drafted essentially a potential replacement for you, to go out there and completely bat for him. So shout out to Grant Williams, because that's not easy to do. That requires you to have a pretty solid ego in check.
Oh, no doubt. Grant's a pro's pro, super solid NBA veteran. It's refreshing hearing this stuff from a guy with his experience that's this vocal and supportive of his competition / teammates. So Grant has, for me, he's said some weird things and done some weird things, but on the court, I'm a fan of Grant Williams, and since he's been a Hornet, I haven't disagreed with anything he said. It's been a great addition to the mix for sure.
Yeah, I said back to last offseason when there were rumors about Grant Williams and people were saying, who would you prefer, PJ Washington or Grant Williams? This is when PJ was still a restricted free agent. They were potentially looking at Grant Williams. And I said, I think that PJ Washington is the better player, but for this team, I think Grant Williams' skill set was a better fit because of the leadership, because of the defense, consistency, because of the more consistent outside shot, and just the kind of talkative leadership capability that he brings. Now, it's right. Grant Williams is quirky. He is a chess player. His mother worked at NASA. He loves opening Pokemon cards and stuff this is the kind of stuff that I can understand. You might think he is a quirky dweeb type thing if you're in the NBA from maybe certain backgrounds. Grant Williams did not grow up like a lot of people in the NBA, and that makes him different. But I think for whatever reason, this team seems to embrace him for that, whereas in other landing spots, i.e. Dallas, did not seem to go down as well with that group. But he has been a refreshing addition to this team, and I'm a big fan of him. There's some rumors there's speculation that he might be a guy who could be on the trade block this summer because they've re-signed Miles, because they've drafted Salaun. And look, I wouldn't rule it out because this team is looking towards the future, but he's giving a lot to this team right now, even when he doesn't play. And when he does, he was really good last year. Gets overlooked. He shot the ball extremely well. He passed the ball well. He played as a small ball 5. He was extremely effective, and I think he could have a major role in this team. He might even close games at the 5 for this team. It would not shock me.
Yeah, Grant gets it, man. He gets it. He knows what playing against the Hornets is like as a Charlotte resident and as an opponent, right? The idea when the Celtics or the Knicks or really Atlanta are in town, how the building could be 50-50 or just louder for the other team because of how things are going in Charlotte. Grant knows that. He understands it. He wants to change that. And everything he's done so far, I know the season hasn't started yet, but really he's been checking off the list of moving to a better, healthier Charlotte Hornets environment at home, especially.
Other news, Dwayne Washington has been cut. He has rejoined Partizan, the team that he had already signed with before the Knicks trade. If you want to get into the complexities of that, I'll let you go read about it. But essentially, the Knicks paid Partizan, I think, like €700 to allow them to sign and trade him, to not have him for 2 or 3 weeks, and then to essentially let him re-sign. Now joins Pogostevsky and Frank Ntilikina on the same team. Charlotte Hornets Europe, as some people are calling them. So Dwayne Washington is gone. That leaves Charlie Brown, Daquan Jeffries, Harry Giles, Keontae Johnson as the unguaranteed contracts remaining on the team at the moment. Am I missing anyone unguaranteed, or is that it?
I think that's it, because it's in my head watching these games and looking at the minutes, and we could talk about more about this later, but who's going to take that 15th spot? And that's the list, really. Jeffries, Brown, Giles, and Johnson. So Washington out of the mix. Too bad he couldn't hit his free throws on his way out. Just saying. Be nice to go out on a high note.
Hey, he wanted to hit him too. That was against his old team, right? Like, you want to send your old team with a loss every day of the week, even if they did just basically make him like $2 million for free for turning up for 2 weeks. Like, you still want to do that as a competitor.
They took that's a hell of a thing. But shout out to Dwayne. I liked him when he played for Indiana. Like, when I think Dwayne Washington Jr., I think of when the Pacers played the Hornets and the Hornets having a hard time with him. That's how I choose to remember him by, not the missed free throw.
Let's touch on that 15th roster spot, because I think it's an interesting topic. How would you play out? How do you see it playing out? I've got my own theory.
So there's 4 guys: Jeffries, Brown, Johnson, and Giles. Yeah, basically 3 perimeter guys and 1 big. We're seeing a lot more Taj Gibson than I expected to see this preseason. And I'm wondering if they're cool with rocking with Mark, Nick, and Taj in the front court. Which means, do they really want to rock with and seeing how little Giles has been playing? 3 minutes in game 1, 3 minutes in game 2, 7 minutes in game 3. It makes it seem like Charles Lee's seeing something in practice, and it's not translating to the floor, and he's not getting the run some folks may like to see, or he would like to see. But when you look at how Keontae Johnson's being used, Charlie Brown lately, right? Daquan Jeffries got a great start. He played game 1. Daquan played 19 minutes, game 2, 14 minutes, DNP the third game. And then Charlie Brown's like the reverse of that, where he didn't play the first game. Brown played the second game for 8 minutes. And then game 3 played 12 minutes. Those guys seem to be neck and neck, where Johnson may be ahead of all of them. I think if I had to put, not a gambling podcast, but I think Johnson is the front runner, in my opinion, just from how they're being used. And also, are we just going back to like the Cody Martin depth, like the wing depth? I don't know if it's really there. And so if they're comfortable with Taj as a third center, my mind goes to the best wing of the 3, and I think that goes to Keontae.
I would agree at those 4. I think that's who I would give the lead to at the minute, even though I will say, like, I don't think Keontae Johnson has shown. I don't think he's shown much in the preseason games that we've seen that you go, oh yeah, he's really making a claim for it there. He's just kind of been like one of the end of the bench guys who's been out there at times. I agree with how you read the tea leaves of Giles' minutes in preseason. And I think you missed off 2 names that are also ahead of Harry Giles in the rotation. I think that would be Grant Williams, maybe as a small ball 5.
Yeah. And
I think Moussa Diabate on a 2-way, who's had a really good preseason. I think he is a guy who, when I look at it, I feel probably more comfortable rocking with the Diabate as an emergency backup 5 if Mark is out for a bit. Nick Richards, I don't know, is in foul trouble because of 500 moving screens. Like, I think Diabate has shown enough in preseason that I would rock with him over Giles. And I think Charles Lee has shown that as well, with the amount of minutes that he's put Diabate out there for. I actually don't think they'll fill it. I think they waive all those 4 guys.
Yeah.
That's how I think it plays out. And I think they go in with a open roster spot, which gives them more optionality and flexibility to make more trades. And I think this is going to be an extremely active trade team. We've seen that under this new leadership of Jeff Peterson, making lots of moves around the fringes. I would not be surprised for them just to keep that position open. And if they do waive Giles, I think that's a real vote of confidence in Mark Williams' health. Like if he is the guy on the 50th roster, then that makes me a little bit more concerned on that end.
Yeah, and with those guys, if you cut any of them, respectfully, you can sign them again later. Like I don't expect a bidding war for any of these guys if they depart from the Charlotte Hornets. So keeping an open roster spot, knowing you have that kind of like familiarity with these guys, maybe you can revisit it in a couple of months if you need an emergency wing, emergency guard, emergency big fill in later in the year.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to preseason general. Hornets are 2-1. Won their first back-to-back preseason games since I don't know when, a little while ago. A completely meaningless stat. I mean, preseason wins and losses, they could not count for less when you are ending these games like playing complete guys who just won't be in the NBA.
Yeah.
But one thing I did notice from the Hornets preseason schedule, they have scheduled some very physical, difficult teams to play against who have a lot of ball pressure. And people might be thinking, oh, this is Jeff Peterson, this is Charles Lee. This is not. Preseason schedules are basically normally agreed a year to 2 years in advance of the games. So this is probably going to be a Mitch Kupchak era, but the Miami Heat, 2 games against the Knicks, the Memphis Grizzlies, you've got 1 against the Pacers. But those are probably, if you were to say like who are the most physical teams in the NBA, you might give those 3. I think that's been a really good, barometer for the Hornets in this preseason. I mean, their turnovers are pretty high, especially their live ball turnovers. But that's because you're playing against these teams who really get into the ball and force a ton of turnovers and play physically. And that's been, we've talked about this, the Hornets' Achilles heel. They've been the soft pushover team. They've been talented, they've been skilled, but they've been easy to just dominate and get on top of. And we haven't seen that type of physical domination in these games early.
No. And that's really where I wanted to see Mark Williams, where he's at. Because he's such a physical, like imposing guy on paper. He's not that guy every night. And I, as a fan and someone who watches this team closely, it's like once he unlocks that part of his game, that's going to lift everything up. And I feel we're robbed of that this preseason. You have Nick Richards like fighting for his life against Zach Edey, right? Like
do you think he played badly against Edey?
Richards?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say badly. No.
I thought he played well. Like there was one clip of where he jumped on a shot fake kind of too early and it got dumped off to Edey. That went round and everyone's using this like one moment from the game to shit on Nick Richards. And I thought it was completely BS. Like, firstly, for that specific clip, he was unsighted from the man with the ball because Trey Mann, I think, was the player like there. So, but like if you watched a bunch of other players in that game, he battled Zach Edey really well, drew offensive fouls, battled with him on the glass, defended him well on the post. I thought Nick Richards actually played pretty well that game, but Hornets fans are really, they're just not, they don't like giving Nick Richards compliments. I think it's the offensive screen fouls. And like, I guess because it's something so simple, they get really annoyed when they see it. But I liked what I saw from Nick Richards in that Zach Edey game, in the Memphis game. I thought it was good. I thought he played well. Physical out there. He's like the most physical player in that starting lineup, bar none, of any of those guys starting. He is by far the guy who brings the physicality on the interior and did not let Zach Edey bully him.
Yeah. I was like watching the tournament last year. I was hard not to think was Zach Edey better than, like at the time I was thinking like, is Zach Edey better than Nick Richards now? And you got to see it in a preseason game. But, I think Nick is an easy target because of the screens, because of the dropped or missed, like mistimed catches and finishes. And what realistically Hornets fans have to just keep in the lens they have to keep in mind with him is like he's filling in.
Exactly.
He's not a starting center. And all Hornets fans should be like looking for is him just to like maintain things until things are back healthy again. Everybody's back healthy again. So yes, it can be frustrating. I've been frustrated too by it. at times with some of the faux pas from Nick Richards, but he's a backup center, and that's fine. Hopefully Mark Williams is back and can ride everything. But no, to your point, Richards, 5th year in the league, held his own against Edey. Very active as always. One thing you can never say about him is that he doesn't play hard. Like Nick Richards always brings it, which again, I hate saying that about pros, but you have to give them credit for trying hard because not everyone does. And I think Nick Richards gives a shit, and I respect him for that.
Agreed. Other observations from preseason overall. I'm going to run through some just broad team stats. Now, I'm not looking at anything to do with shooting percentages, but what you can start to probably learn from preseason is what are some of the projected strengths and weaknesses of this team in terms of their play style. And there are some interesting things. The Hornets are last in steals in the preseason. It doesn't track deflections, so I can't tell if they've just been unlucky, but that tells me that they are playing a more conservative defense, probably a carryover from the Clifford era of not reaching in, not gambling too much, not fouling, which has been a consistent issue over the last couple of years. It is something I think if they want to get out and run and play in transition a lot, like you need to generate live ball turnovers to get steals. And that's something we heard a lot in training camp was get out and run, play quicker, which feels like every single new coach with a young team says that. Mm-hmm. But that is something that they've struggled to do yet. And I'm curious if someone speaks to Charles Lee about it. I wish I could ask him to figure out if that is scheme or is that something that they are not executing to be disruptive enough defensively at the moment.
Which is shocking too, considering how I'm gonna say it, considering how bad some of the other teams' guards are, that you're not getting more opportunities, right? That you're not eating off of turnovers or inexperienced players. That is a little disappointing.
Yeah. Another observation, they are top 5 in 3-point attempts and the top 5 rebounding team as well. And I look, the 3-point attempt rate, that is one thing I'm feel confident right now that this Hornets team is going to be a top 5 3-point attempt team because one, Charles Lee's system, both in Milwaukee and in Boston, came from that. And two, just look who the 2 best players are. Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, who can shoot pretty much from anywhere and will take a ton of threes and high difficulty threes. And Charles Lee wants them taking those shots. So I'm pretty confident that they're going to be towards the top of the league. Percentage-wise, it may not be pretty, but I think they're going to make a lot because I think their attempt rate is going to be super high.
Yeah, and you throw in Seth Curry into the mix. There's shooters.
Tidjane Salaun, your guy.
Yeah, man. My guy. Trey Mann. You know what I mean? There are guys that are going to put it up. I love the rebounding. I love it. This team was dead last in rebounding last year. I know Mark Williams was out, but that's effort. Rebounding is a skill, but a lot of it's effort. You got to want to do it. Clifford was challenging the team to get to be more aggressive on the boards all season last year. It just never clicked. And even though it's preseason, bro, having the Hornets in a positive place on the glass is so big, especially when you're putting up a lot of shots, a lot of opportunities for rebounds.
Yeah, and credit to Nick Richards. I think Nick Richards is averaging, he's averaging 9 rebounds per game in 19 minutes. That is serious rebounding rate. Musa Diabate's been good on the boards. Miles Bridges is the team's second leading rebounder, pulling in 5.7 per game. Even Brandon Miller, that was one of the areas that I feel he could really improve on coming to this year. I think he was under 3 rebounds a game last year, which for someone of his size just didn't really make sense. And he was a good rebounder in college too. So I like to see that is coming through. And that's without Mark Williams, who is probably, he is this team's best rebounder, in my opinion. He had that, 20 rebound game against the Wizards last year. So it does seem like there has been a renewed effort and emphasis on that. Again, not getting too carried away with a small sample size. But there's a couple of kind of the big picture takeaways that I've caught early just to get an idea of what could the strengths and weaknesses be of this team so far.
No, I think that's well said. I was telling you before we started recording, I don't feel super confident the Hornets are going to be like, extremely good this year, but I think they'll be extremely fun. And if they're putting up shots, running the floor, and stay healthy, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Like a few years ago when folks were talking about the Hornets being a top tier league pass team, I think we're going to be back in that world again where the Hornets are going to be a league pass team. A must see. I'm not saying they're going to win a lot of games, but I think they're going to be fun to watch again.
God, you remember how fun some of those seasons were? Like flying up and down the court, the highlights, the close games, just the high scoring games, how the offense flowed. Like you say, that was probably like some of the peak viewing of Charlotte Hornets in the modern era. Like I know they didn't win shit in the playoffs. I know they didn't make the playoffs, but you can't take away how fun those regular seasons were at the time. They were good. You mentioned about how you don't think they're going to be very good. Do you think the fan base is shifting, that a lot of the fan base after this preseason are actually thinking they are going to be good? I'm sensing it already. Are you?
Yeah, like you see it when like in the replies, but the Hornets do anything, it's playoffs and like things like that. And I get it, it's Twitter or X. And fans, I don't want to like shit on your parade. Like I'm not here to do that. Please be excited. Please be hopeful. I want to be wrong. I want this team to be awesome. I just don't think we're there yet. So be hyped, enjoy it, but please be realistic. Have a foundation of realism in it, please, just for your own sake. Because yes, things are fun, things are firing off, and 2, 3 things can happen and things can go really badly. If everything goes well, I view this team as like a 12, 11 seed, kind of in that zone, the bottom end of the play-in. But it's just not there yet, and that's okay. Like it's perfectly fine. New owners, new front office, new coaching staff, new medical team. This is day one or season one of this first full season of this. Like it's okay. It's okay to be bad for this year.
I mean, that's what the team are trying to be. Like this team are not trying to make the playoffs. They want to keep the first round pick. I know that does not in line with the emotions of the fan base, but I'm just telling you that is everything this team has done from a transactional point of view in the last 12 months has told you that. I still do think this team might in some ways be better than last team, because I still think last year's team was talented, but it was flawed with how it was built. But all I will say is the higher you allow yourself to get on this team now emotionally, you risk setting yourself up for a bigger emotional fall during the season, right? You hype yourself up, everything, you're telling everybody, blah, blah, blah. And then when things don't go to plan, some of these people, profiles, accounts that are drumming up this optimism, because look, optimism sells engagement. Optimism gets likes and retweets, and some of these accounts are monetized and making money off X. And that is what they're trying to do. They will also be the same accounts who, when things go badly, will turn and will get antagonistic and will criticize and will be looking for scapegoats as soon as things start going wrong, complaining about a coach. Why isn't this person getting minutes? You know, what was this and out of a timeout play? And you've just got to try and stay, you hear it in the NBA all the time, like try and stay level, try and stay consistent, because you set yourself up for that big emotional fall, and you can fall hard, and that's when people start to get angry, right? Because this isn't what they were sold. We were told they were going to be a playing team. I think this is going to be if they are healthy, I think their wins will be in the 30s. If they're not healthy, which I think is probably more likely than not, just judging off the only thing you know about injuries is that they are one thing that kind of you can translate from year to year. If you are injury prone, you can be injury prone. I think they'll probably be somewhere in the high 20s to low 30s if they pick up injuries, which I'm like going to be surprised if they don't right now. I hate to say it, but I'm a realist and I will always be real.
Yeah, I mean, it'd just be ignoring recent history, right? It's not you saying that this guy's going to get hurt. It's like, well, he's been hurt, probably get hurt again. Maybe not miss the whole season, but may miss some time. And what's the depth? And then you're like, all right, what's the depth look like? Well, if it's in the guard part of if it's in the backcourt, could probably stomach an injury, right? If it's in the perimeter or the front court, probably a big problem, right? So it's just about when and the time timing, and if you have two guys out, that's a really big problem. So, yeah, how this medical team structures all this and manages all this stuff to be interesting. Having Charles Lee again, it's like unfair, like to really like expect a playoff team from a rookie head coach as well. Like I feel like that's not being discussed enough. Where you've seen rookie head coaches probably for different reasons because like the expectations were a little higher, right? We saw what Darvin Ham get moved on from, and Adrian Griffin, right in Milwaukee. Like got highly touted assistants for years. Get a head coaching job, gone, right? Because they didn't live up to expectations. Fortunately for Charles Lee, Jeff Peterson's made it very clear about what the expectations are. He's never said the word playoffs. like he's been asked that straight up. What's the expectations for this team? I don't want to put that out there. We've seen Kupchak say the P word before. So far, Jeff Peterson has not said the P word. As far as in the realm of expectations. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think this team will be fun. Like what we've seen from Trey Mann, I think will translate and will help us as fans go through like the tough times, the real like dead parts of the season. Like there's gonna be some really incredible basketball played individually. I just don't know if we'll see 82 games of it.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to our main section today. Stock up, stock down. So I'm going to let you go first. We're going to start down first. Where do you want to start with this a preseason stock down?
Vasilije Micic, bro. What's going on?
Was there anywhere else to start?
Holy shit.
I mean, it couldn't have been much worse. Funny story. I wrote my debut column, 5 Stings, where I kind of take some observations from the last couple of weeks and put them in. And one of them was about Vasilije Micic, and I had a line in there which is something around like, I'm still a Vasilije Micic believer. I couldn't understand, the speculation around trading him this offseason. And then I saw the second preseason game.
Bruh.
And I had to then go in and edit and add another line and being like, however, he did just have possibly the worst preseason performance in all Hornets history with 4 turnovers, minus 16 in under 3 minutes. It
was like a bobble pass. He dribbled off his own foot. There was I forget what the turnover was. Then he fouled somebody. It was like how quickly can you get subbed out? That's what he did. Like it's like
KJ Simpson, in you go.
And that was it. He was done. He was sitting on the bench after the injured guys. Like he was done for the night.
It's interesting. That's actually a really good point they brought up there, because I wasn't going to bring it up, but did Charles Lee bench someone in preseason? Is that a Charles Lee way of saying, like, if you're just going to turn up and like not appear with it and just off the pace, I don't care who you are, how experienced you are, like you're just going to come sit next to me? Do you think this is a Vasilije Micic thing saying, coach, bring me out the game, like I'm just not with it tonight? Like, which way do you think that went?
So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's an older player. He's a veteran. He's a veteran basketball player who theoretically shouldn't really need preseason other than just training camp and like getting your lungs and legs ready, all that. That what he did in 4 minutes was the epitome of this ain't your night. So you know what? We don't want to damage your confidence. We don't want to ruin your trade value. Take a seat. We'll see you the next game. And the next game, what? He played 20 minutes, still 4 turnovers, but spread out over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
I think it was just, man, it was like, let's get the kids out and just take a seat, Vasa.
From what I've seen, there is definitely an element of overthinking going on with Micic right now. Like last season, he was pretty good with the ball in his hands. Like his assist to turnover ratio was pretty high. He seemed to be kind of very much the driver of the offense when he was in because of all the injuries that there were on the team. And at the moment, it looks like he's trying to focus on getting the Hornets into their stuff and getting certain people the ball. And he's almost not playing his natural game. And that is where a lot of the overthinking comes. I mean, the turnovers, the live ball turnovers have been like, they're just killers. They are benchers, right? You just pass sideways to someone who goes for a layup. That is 2 points given. The coach is going to be looking for a reason to keep you out the game. The handle looks loose. There was a real lack of separation. Not that there ever was, but before the handle was kind of tighter. And I don't know if he just looks uncomfortable right now in the offensive system. And at times, I've noticed they've had Brandon Miller bringing the ball up. They've had LaMelo Ball bringing the ball up. They've even had, at times, like I've seen Grant Williams and Miles Bridges bringing the ball up. And when that happens, is they're kind of taking the ball out of Micic's hands at times. I just think he's not comfortable not always having the ball. But then if you're going to turn it over every time you touch it, they ain't going to pass it to you more. So I completely agree. It's been a rough watch here. Do you think it's been rough enough to put his rotation role at risk? Or do you think they can just kind of get away with this as being preseason rust and let's get it out your system now?
I think they're not really gonna like lose faith in him, right? Two more preseason games left. I think he still will provide a viable contribution as a rotation guy, as a backup guard. Trey Mann as a point guard, in the traditional sense, creative wise, I don't know, but as a shoot for score first kind of facilitator, maybe that may push Micic down a notch, right, in the rotation. Where going into preseason, I just assumed LaMelo, Brandon Miller, you're just point guard, shooting guard, and then your second unit would be Trey Mann and Micic. Micic at the point, Trey at the 2. But with the healthy Seth, maybe you see Trey at the 1 and Seth at the 2, and Micic takes a little further seat down. Because, there was all that Denver stuff, and I wouldn't blame him at the man for wanting to play with Jokic. I'd want to play with Jokic, right? That's his countryman, best player in the league. Like, it makes sense. And I'm wondering, like, is it the Olympics? Like, because we saw like Josh Green, to get some rest coming off that Olympic run. Micic being over the 30-year-old mark, it's a lot of miles, right? And maybe it's just that. Maybe just need some rest coming off a training camp and be more used in a sparingly, like, breaking case of emergency type role. I don't know. But I thought going into the season, I was thinking like Micic would probably top of the list of like trade guys most likely to be traded. And I don't know about it. Like it's I don't know. I think it's still there, but I think it's shaky. If we see more of his, seemingly lack of confidence the rest of preseason.
Well, I definitely think he has the most to play for in these last couple of preseason games. Because, like you said, if he is this bad in the next 2 games, then maybe you do rock with Trey Mann and Seth Curry in the backcourt in the second unit. And you say, Vasa, you're not brought it this preseason. You're not brought in training camp. Now, they've seen a bunch more, in training camp that we've seen. And that's where I think the key difference is here, right? If he's been this way in training camp and it's carried over to the preseason games, I think the alert buttons will be flashing. If he's been just the kind of Micic we saw last year in these 2 preseason games, are kind of like, Vasa, what's going on tonight, man? And they just feel like blips, then I'm not too worried. But he definitely got something to play for now. Again, I think I like Trey Mann in this more scoring, aggressive mode than necessarily as a point looking to distribute. But he showed he could do that last year, and you just can't turn the ball over that much. And this is going to be a high turnover team, I think. Like, it's just probably the way they're going to play with the youth, the transition. And you don't really want your backup point guard, someone Micic's experience, should be the guy who calms things down, not who makes that problem even worse. So I completely agree. Vasilije Micic, it's been tough. You have a big 2 games ahead to cement that spot in the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go stock up. I'm going to jump off the start with the biggest winner, I think, of Hornets training camp and preseason is Trey Mann, who we just talked about. We heard it on media day. We've heard it from his teammates and from the coaches throughout training camp that he has taken a jump with his shot making, with his aggressiveness, and some of the scoring package we've seen from Trey Mann. It's been pretty impressive. The isolation scoring, left-hand finishes, driving into contact at the rim. And he had some of these moments last year What's really impressing me is just the aggressiveness. Like last season, I felt like he always played very under control. And I said it on this exact podcast, like at times too under control. I'm like, I want you to be more aggressive. I want you to search for your shot more. I want you to not always pass out of things. And it looks like someone has just told you, like we said last week, just go out and try to do an Allen Iverson impression. And he's taken that mentality, and it is really translated so far. He's looking like he can score at will. It has been a fun Trey Mann experience so far. He's playing for that contract extension. Due by the end of this month, he can get a rookie scale contract extension. I wrote an article in the summer saying, it's not going to happen. You know, there's too many guards in this roster. His role is too unclear. Now they might be thinking, we could get him for a discount now because after this season, he could be one of the premier sixth men. That's how it looks right now. This is all preseason overreaction, but I think there is definitely a real jump. We've heard enough now to know that this is not just hot shooting. There's enough here when you piece everything together to know that an element of this is real.
Oh yeah. And is Trey sixth man a thing?
100 to 1. I've got it in my notes.
No, I mean like the nickname, like because his last name Trey.
Trey sixth man. Oh, man, I get you. I see where you're going.
It should be a thing.
It could be right now.
Hornets social team, make that a thing. Let's start the campaign now because he is so fun to watch, man. Like, so I feel like it was like it's almost like we're watching him now. It's like, where was this last year? And I'd be curious to hear the difference, right? And we know he worked hard, but like, what's the why? Is it the contract? Is it falling out of favor in OKC and having the team that drafted you seemingly give up on you? Like, is it a chip on his shoulder? Like, I would love to know the why for this change because it's something really dope. And to your point, he's doing it. He's not just spotting up. He's not just, driving and getting to the line. He's doing it all offensively. And he's moving with the confidence. That's really something special. And I'm so here for it. And I'm so happy for him.
Yeah. If you think, where do you think Trey Mann will rank in scoring for this team?
So here, I was gonna say something, but I was gonna say it feels like Malik Monk is back.
You want to workshop your take here?
No, I just want to say it feels like Malik Monk is back on the roster. As things aren't going, like if things aren't going, having a guy to turn to, like shots aren't falling. Like if Terry was cold or LaMelo was cold or Devontae Graham was cold, like having Malik as an option to go to as a safety blanket, that made me comfortable as a fan. And I feel like Trey Mann's giving me those Malik Monk vibes from the COVID times. And during that stretch, he was 11 points a game. I think Trey can do that. I think he could definitely do that.
Yeah. I would have LaMelo, Bridges, Miller all ahead of him in scoring. I could see a world where he is the fourth leading scorer on the team ahead of Mark Williams. Now, coming into the year, I would have told you that is very unlikely. Mm-hmm. But just with his aggressiveness in that second unit, he's definitely going to lead the second unit in scoring. That's almost a certain thing now. He's definitely going to be ahead of Josh Green in my mind. So then it comes down to him and Mark Williams. He could be the fourth leading scorer on this team with everyone healthy. And I think that's an exaggeration. I think it'll be between him and Mark.
Yeah, and who knows how much basketball Mark's going to play. So I think Trey is definitely going to be in the mix for sure. And I'm so the guard position, obviously the guard position is important. All positions are important, but just having that to go to, and it's such an upgrade over what we've seen before, man. Like no disrespect to Isaiah Thomas and Brad Wanamaker and them, but like the guards, the Hornets fans had to watch play basketball last 4 years. Trey Mann it's a massive leap above all those guys.
Yeah. Would you try and lock it in for an extension?
No. I wouldn't be mad at it, but I wouldn't. If I'm Jeff Peterson, I wouldn't do it. I would never do it if I didn't have to do it, because if You pay a guy, if you wait and he ups his value, great. That means he's better than you expected. And then if you need to move money around to make it work, you move money around to make it work. It's a good problem to have, needing to overpay a guy because he's bringing it. And Trey is the trajectory that he's on right now, that at least appears to be on, seems to be headed towards a big payday. And if I'm Jeff Peterson and Trey Mann's in the 6-man conversation, 15 points a game, like, please take my money. Like, happy to do it.
Yeah, and often the smaller scoring guards just don't quite get paid in the NBA. You think about other teams, and with him being a restricted free agent because he's on a rookie scale contract, we just saw PJ Washington couldn't get a deal in free agency from another team. We saw it with Isaac Okoro this offseason, who's kind of like left out there lingering in restricted free agency. I agree. Like, it's all promising now, but let's wait and see. Let's see the full season. The only way is if you can get like some incredible value contract, right? Let's say you can get him for, 4 years, 35 million, like Peyton Pritchard type money. And you think, let's lock this in now because it makes sense. But I think that is probably unlikely for both sides. But they've seen a lot more of him than we have. We've seen 3 preseason games. They've seen everything through the summer. And if he's just a guy who adds to your culture, which everyone in OKC spoke very fondly of him, then he could be a guy who could make sense to lock down. But I think I lean with you. Let's wait and see. Let's make a decision next offseason. Keep his low cap hold around, would give you more flexibility anyway. This team is probably not in the need to be locking in bench players on extensions because that is pretty much what he is probably going to be on this team going forward. Oh,
definitely. And I just wanted to make sure he's not a clutch client, and he's not, so we don't have to deal with that. So that's
good. Good. Okay. I'm going to go stock down. I'm going to go Miles Bridges defense. And I think Miles Bridges offensively, I've actually kind of been impressed with. I feel like he's bought into some of the offensive roles, but we heard Miles Bridges talk about his defense this year, like he has other years, and he even joked himself. He's self-aware. He's like, I've talked about defense in other years, but this is the year that I really want to do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm still seeing all the same issues, Sam. There is a terrible ball-watching rebound in the Memphis game where he just let his man run right past him. His help defense in the paint, he is just caught in no man's land time and time again. There's no blocks in his 3 games. And not only is he not protecting the rim, but he's not even staying with his man on the perimeter. He's in this like weird floating zone of doing nothing, kind of like 10 foot out from the paint, where he's not influencing either the kick out or the drive. He's 1 steal in 3 games. Again, steals are not everything, but it just shows like the lack of event creation defensively. The rebounding's been pretty good, and I want to give him credit there. We talked about the rebounding already, and we said that he's second in the team in rebounding. But I was hoping that with less offensive load on him and with knowing what this team need, we would start to see flashes of a different defender in Miles Bridges. And it was hope. It was hope more than expectation. Like, he is long enough into his NBA career now. I wasn't expecting it just to click. Yeah. But for me, it's more words. I'm yet to see real follow through for Bridges on the defensive impact on that side of the ball. And that will be a big problem for this team.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Yes. yes. Like, Bridges and whoever's playing center are going to have to carry the load. And whatever we get from Brandon Miller, you know what I mean? But like, second-year guy, I don't put that all on him yet.
Well, I would say Josh Green. I think he's him in the center. I think Josh Green will be the probably guy who carries the load if he starts.
True. No, you're not wrong there. I just like with Bridges and the fact when guys are in their late 20s, they're pretty much who they are. They're not gonna all of a sudden add a whole new face to their game. It's great to say it, shows self-awareness, but I don't think it's realistic to really see it as like, all right, he's a elite 2-way guy all of a sudden. Like, it just doesn't happen. And like, that's your physical prime, and you're gonna ride that for a while, but you're not gonna see that massive increase, right? So Bridges, if he's like if he with everybody available and he's giving just enough, right? Where you have Jeff Green. Oh my God, Jeff. We should sign Jeff Green. Jeff.
It made your life easier as a podcaster if we did, right?
Yeah, I don't know why we were saying Jeff Green all the time. Josh Green.
We can get
What is
Josh,
Jeff
Jeff, and Jamichael. We get them all on the same team if you want. Then you'd really be screwed.
Run all the greens. Eric Collins would have a field day with all the greens out there. With Green, Bridges, and Williams out there. Bridges as the third guy on the defensive side, the help side defensive guy. That could be something. But I don't know. Like maybe once everyone's healthy, we'll get a better, clear picture of how it'll be used defensively. But I agree with what you're saying though. I don't think he's going to be that guy, and I don't think fans should expect him really to do it either.
And that really limits the ceiling on this team because his best season was when he was coming off the bench under James Borrego, and he just brought such defensive energy, and that was when this Hornets team were at their best because he was a plus defender, and he's just hurt them time and time again with his off-ball defense. And even the on-ball stuff hasn't been great either. Like picked up some lazy fouls, struggling to slide with guys on the perimeter. Like the bounces back on the offensive end, I'm yet to see that translate through defensively though. Still seems pretty ground bound on that end at the moment. Outside of, skying in for some rebounds. So that's my stock down. Let's go to you, Sam, for a stock up.
All right. This is the main event, y'all. Ready? Are you ready, James? I do like some KJ Simpson. Tidjane Salaun. Stock all the way up.
There was me thinking that we'd seen, like, after that first game against the Knicks in preseason, I was like, it's just one game. Like, we probably won't see him do it again in preseason. Holy hell, man. Like, this is not something I think anyone was expecting.
How is he better than JT Thor? Like, already. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care if it's preseason.
You're right. No, you're right. He's unquestionable. He's had 3 better games than JT Thor had in 3 seasons.
Salute to JT Thor. But, like, what are we doing? What's happening? How does this happen? This man, in the game against the Grizzlies,
not even a man. He's a boy. 19 years old. He's this boy.
This very special, big child hit a 3 over a catch and shoot 3 over Zach Edey. All right. And then Desmond Bane, famous for his little arms, shoots a 3 over Tidjane. Like, all right, what the hell, bro? Like, you're huge. You have a crazy wingspan. How you gonna let Desmond Bane shoot a 3 over you? Later in the game, Tidjane gets his comeback, hits a 3 over Bane. This man, I'm here for Tidjane. I hope they keep him in Charlotte. I think that's where this is heading. I don't know this. If something's been reported otherwise about how he'll be used in Greensboro versus Charlotte, but I really think he's in the rotation as a 9/10 type of guy when the season starts. Especially if this continues, because this young man, his head's up, he's hustling. The confidence is crazy. He hit a jab, step back 3 in the Grizzlies game. He has no business doing that stuff, but he is. I'm here for it. Make me some money, Tidjane. Thanks in advance.
The biggest thing, like the shooting's the shooting. The shooting's been fantastic. The soft touch on the shot and the variety of ways you can get to it and the range you can shoot from is pretty crazy for a 6'10" guy who has just turned 19 years old. Like, there are not many people with a better shot at that age that we've seen so far. I mean, I did a big draft deep dive on his shooting, and he was always a good catch and shoot shooter, even last year in the draft. That was not the problem. The problem for Tidjane was he took loads of horrible step back 3s. He was taking some really deep ones. He was shot 41% last year on open catch and shoots, which he's largely taken so far. But he shot 23% on contested catch and shoots and 20% on step backs. And he had, 93 of those attempts last year. So that's what dragged down his overall shooting percentage. And I like that they are making the game simple for him. He's not being asked to make too many decisions on the floor. It is kind of a pretty simple, like, either shoot it if you're open or pass it, go set a screen, and roll to the rim. And that simple game that both he is executing himself and he deserves credit, but also the coaching staff are putting him in that position. Get him in there, get him confident, doing things that are his strengths, and you can build in those other areas of the game. And the confidence that he has,
oh my God.
I mean, there are two types of confidence. There's the Malik Monk confidence when he was like, I'm going to be rookie of the year in his rookie season in Charlotte. And you were like, Malik, like, what? That's not quite what we envisioned here for you. And there's irrational confidence, but I don't think Salaun has a rational confidence. I just think he has a real strong inner belief in his work, and he has a sense of belonging as a 19-year-old who just moved across the world and is playing in a league in a city that he's barely been in for 2 minutes. And the confidence he has in taking some of these shots, these are just not shots that you see rookies normally take. It's very, very encouraging, just his approach, more so even than like the end result. That's what I've been so impressed in. He should be deer in headlights right now, and he's not.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's the car. He's not the deer in headlights. He's driving that car, bro. Like this is where I go. This goes back to this team being fun to watch, right? The idea of LaMelo with Tidjane in the regular season there's so much potential there for fun things to happen, right? There's going to be miscues and errors and turnover. Like that's going to happen, but we're also going to get the other side of it, and it's going to make the season memorable in that respect. Now, I'm very excited about it. Personally, I haven't talked about in this podcast. I didn't like the pick at the time. I still stand by that, by the way. Like, I would have taken Donovan Clingan there because of Mark Williams' health issues and how we talked about earlier in the show about Nick Richards being limited as a starter. I would have drafted Clingan, traded Nick, and had Mark and Clingan for the regular season.
By the way, just on the topic of the draft, because it's relevant to what you say, John Holland just said today in a piece in The Athletic that he wrote about Tidjane. He was talking about the Charlotte Hornets. He predicted they were going to win 23 games. You can go shout at John Holland if you want. Shout at John. I like John. But he wrote there, he said, out of curiosity, I had Tidjane Salaun ranked 16th on my draft board, and that he'd heard that there were at least 3 other teams ready to draft Salaun in the top 10, which was not something that was thought heading into draft night at all. And that's something that he's heard since draft. So I guess that goes to show that at the time it was viewed as the Charlotte Hornets went wild in drafting Tidjane Salaun, higher than people thought the Spurs might take him later in the draft, and other than that, like no one else was interested. Not the case, according to John Hollinger of The Athletic.
That's fair. In a draft where there wasn't any like stars, taking a swing on a high potential prospect makes a lot of sense. So I get it from the Hornets' point of view, and anybody else that wanted to select them, like it makes sense. But for me, I was like, get the short thing and cling and like rock with it, secure the front office or the front court.
I think going off my draft board, I was in a pretty similar place to you as well. I think that's how I would have approached it. But I do understand, Salaun for me was like a really risky pick for a first-time GM, right? Like it's late bloomer, like not a great feel for the game, although that hasn't stood out as much in the NBA preseason as it necessarily kind of did in his international film. But like I said, I think that's because they're keeping it simple for him at the moment. But look, I would love for Tidjane to be a factor this season. I do worry that his strong play in preseason is now going to create a bit of a pressure cooker, that if he is not in the rotation, that every time that Grant Williams and Miles Bridges has a bad play, people are going to be pleading for Tidjane Salaun minutes. And I feel that could grate, just like on me, mainly, as I see that over and over again of just like, play Tidjane. Because everyone loves the new, young, shiny guy, and he's now shown something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, remember Vernon Carey when like the Nets just left him open and he scored 12 points and then he didn't really play, and was that still the Cody era, the Cody and Biz era? But whatever random veteran was the center for the Hornets, like I was like, put Vernon Carey in, like him and LaMelo, all the stuff. It's like, okay, guys, like come on, like let's reel it in. They're trying to put a professional basketball team out there. I don't think. I hope it
was the
doesn't
Mason
come to that.
Plumlee era. I think you were talking.
Was it Mason Plumlee?
I think it was
There was a stretch there. It
They started Vernon Carey one game against the Nets, and I think he went for 21 points. Yeah.
Yeah, because like the Nets weren't defending him. Because like, all right, shoot it, rookie, we dare you. I hope it doesn't come to that because I got sick of it seeing it in my live chat and things like that. Like, but Salaun, seemingly much better player than Vernon Carey, all due respect. And I think he'll be used because, like you mentioned, there's opportunity to put Grant at the 5. We've seen Bridges play small forward. Charles Lee can carve out a path for Tidjane minutes.
Can he? Where?
Well, at the 4. So like moving Bridges over to the 3 or Grant to the 5.
Okay.
Like I'm not saying like on a regular basis, but like if you want to get him on the floor, there's a way to do it. There's a way to move somebody.
You're right. You're right. You're actually right. That is true. And I mean, I tweeted out just earlier today, like I saw against the Knicks, there was some Salaun Grant Williams minutes, which I thought was really interesting because look, between those guys, they might block half a shot every game because they're not shot blockers, but they're both good switch defenders. They're both super physical, rebounding the ball. They are both good at staying kind of in front of their man and are high energy, big communicators, especially Grant Williams. And I think if you are out of a game or looking for a jolt, down in the fourth quarter, you go like small with those two guys. The space you make with the shooting gravity of Grant Williams and Tidjane Salaun, that is going to give you a look that other team, when you're playing the Nick Richards, Mark Williams center, it's just a different look that other teams will have to adjust their game to, and will give likes of Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges a lot more room. So, look, I didn't expect him to get crunch time early, but at some point in the season, I saw enough in that Knicks game, in that Grizzlies game even, of Grant Williams and Tidjane Salaun playing together, where they really complemented each other quite nicely because you can switch with both of them. You could play the similar scheme, whichever one of them was in the action.
Yeah, this team has options, and it's really comforting to know, considering what we know about the team in the past with availability issues, having different looks and opportunities to put out different guys in different positions is an enviable spot to be in.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go. Is it me now? You went stock up, TJ, didn't you?
Yeah.
Look, I'll be Debbie Downer. I'll go one more stock down. This is like a stock TBC, really. I think everyone was most excited this preseason to see Josh Green, and I feel like he's just been the least talked about Hornet player so far. Now, part of that is because he didn't play in the game and it's out of the second half, but there is a slightly concerning trend that Josh Green is becoming a bit of a box score ghost, where if you looked in the Australia Olympic team, if you looked at parts of last year and in preseason this year, when you watch him on the screen, he jumps out. He's on the floor because of his energy, picking up guys full court, like flying around. But if you don't watch the game and you look at the stat sheet, like he doesn't like affect the game really many ways. I think again, he's not really got many deflections in the last 2 games. His role in the offense, I think, is yet to be confirmed. And I just don't know if there's a lot of shots going around when you've got Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, maybe Mark Williams there. That's not what he's there to do. He's there to be a defensive guy, but he's the prototype that Charlotte needed. Like the defense first, hard, physical, tough, perimeter defender is what they needed. I just hope that he can be good enough at those things to actually translate through it. Because like at the summit, it was like there was him, there was Najee Marshall, Isaac Okoro. I'd probably have both of those guys over Josh Green. They weren't accessible for the Hornets in the end. I don't think either of them explored Okoro. But I really want it to work because for a long time I said that they needed to move on from Terry Rozier because like the undersized scoring guard wasn't a good fit next to LaMelo. It didn't make sense. And that they needed this exact prototype of player. But I'm a little concerned. Like Charles Lee talked about it. Played a lot of basketball. Went to the finals last year, Olympics. Like he said, it's not been much of an off season for him, and there's a lot of reasons here. New team, a lot of basketball over the summer. That this debut season, Charlotte might not go as well as everyone maybe hoped it would.
Right. And, I think as long as he can maintain that efficiency, I'll be fine with that. Because to your point, LaMelo is probably going to average 20 shots a game, right? Bridge is going to be up there. Brandon Miller was 14 shots a game last year. You can expect that to get higher, right, this season. With Josh Green, for his career, he was 3 a game with Dallas. He was he was 6 a game with Dallas. Basically the last 2 seasons. I think that's just going to be what he is, right? And that's like exactly what they need because a lot of shots can be put up. We talked about Trey Mann earlier. Grant Williams is going to get his. Seth is going to get his, right? Josh is going to understand his role in the team, and it's a much needed role. A guy who's willing to take less and give more, and I'm okay with it. And so for Hornets fans, if you miss the game live and you check the box score and if you see him score 7 points or something like that, just ignore that. Look at the efficiency and look at his plus minus because I think he's gonna be a positive. He's gonna have a positive effect on the team whenever he's out there.
I hope so. I still think he's gonna get the start for the year, but it wouldn't shock me. Let's put it this way: if they experimented at other points in the season.
So what's the look?
Other starting units?
Would you do like LaMelo? Who would you put in there if you hypothetically if you're gonna have Josh Green coming off the bench? Who
I'd consider Cody Martin. I think
Okay.
Cody Martin would be one guy. Obviously not healthy at the moment. Again, unfortunate for him with this laceration and wrist sprain. I think he's one option. You could look at, say, moving Brandon Miller to the 2, Miles Bridges to the 3, and you look at an option at the 4, Grant Williams.
Grant in there, yeah.
Could be the option there. If you lose one of your big time scorers, let's say Brandon Miller goes down, all right, and you just need more scoring in that starting lineup, maybe Trey Mann at that point, you do then look at him, or if LaMelo is out, maybe you need more offense on the floor and Josh Green's balance isn't there. But it's not a big concern right now, but if you came in super pumped to watch Josh Green this preseason, I don't think you come away from this being like, yeah, this is exactly what the team needed yet. Again, the prototype is what they need. I just don't think we've seen the impact yet. Not saying it won't get there, but it's something that we need more time.
No, I think that's fair. That's totally fair.
Right. Any last? Do you want to do a last stock up before we wrap up here?
Shouts to Charlie Brown. I want him to make the team just for Eric Collins. Eric Collins is gonna have a field day if Charlie Brown Jr. makes the team. He had a great showing against Memphis. He went 2 of 3 from 3. Got 12 minutes of action. That's great to see. But I don't forget the stats. I just want him on the floor just to hear what Eric Collins has to say. That's it.
We should power rank Hornets players by Eric Collins' potential quotes.
I'm down.
JT Thor was great for Eric Collins.
Oh my goodness.
Just endless analogies that we could be used there. I will say, just generally related to Charlie Brown, one thing I think we have learned in this preseason, the Hornets' deep bench is streets ahead of where the bench was a year or two ago. If you remember in the preseason when you put out the likes of JT Thor, James Bucknight, Kai Jones, Bryce McGowan's, they were getting steamrolled at the end of these preseason games or in the regular season. And this Hornets team are when they do bench their rotation players and send in basically the guys or borderline players, the identity of the team remains the same. And I think that goes back to something we saw in Summer League where they're able to get a level of buy-in and a consistent style of play, which other Hornets coaching staffs have been unable to do in the past. And I feel a lot better about that. Yeah. End of garbage time unit you put out there. That was just not even fun to watch those Thor, Buck, Kai Jones units, McGowan's, when they should have been, right? They should have been great. We get to see the young guys for 5 minutes. And it was just pain on your eyes of turnovers, fouls, blown coverages, selfish shots. And they've got the end of the bench guys really buying in. And that's another reason I probably buy into a little bit more like this team fighting with injuries a little bit better, because they've got like some Moussa Diabate, who I think is a serviceable NBA big, and their previous two-way players have not been of that level.
And we haven't mentioned him, Nick Smith Jr. We don't know what we have out of him yet. You know,
that's true.
It's a big X factor. And another, going back to the Micic conversation we were talking about earlier, another guy that could eat into Micic's opportunities with guard minutes as the season rolls.
Yeah, not great. Trey Mann's emergence, not great. So looking so great for Nick Smith, I have to say. Like, there is no way I can really see those two being on the floor together at the same time. And if you're only having one of them, I know which one I'm going to pick right now.
Fair.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Sam, thanks for joining me. Do you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Yeah, we're starting up. I've been neglecting my YouTube channel forever, but we're back. Come start making YouTube videos. YouTube videos again. YouTube.com/SamDracula. I'm on Twitter, but I don't really do anything over there. But I'm at Sam Dracula on Twitter. If you like Hornet stuff.
All right.
I'm not a good salesman.
Well, we will be back next week, where it won't be regular season just yet, but we will finish up the preseason by then. We'll probably have some clarity on the final roster, what it's going to look like. We'll be previewing the very first game of the Charlotte Hornets 2024-25 season. Feels like Media Day was just last week. This has been a whirlwind of between Media Day, training camp, preseason. It seems to go quicker and quicker every year, but it's been a lot of fun. The Hornets have been good to watch so far. There are green shoots of recovery in place. Let's hope they can keep up this positive momentum, and we will catch you next week.